Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
As we prepare to welcome Shabbat, we continue to mourn the brutal and tragic loss of life that began in Israel on October 7th, just a few weeks ago. Our hearts are torn, but they're also holding out hope for the now 200 hostages, some that were reported as late as today as having been released, but many of them, a vast majority, who are still being held against their will, many women and children held by the terrorist organization of Hamas in Gaza. And so in our sanctuary, we continue to set aside this chair on our bima covered in a blue and white tallis and holding the book of Psalms for each of those held captive. We pray that the void that is left among their families, the seats that are empty at their Shabbat tables, are soon filled with their presence once again. Let's take a moment of silence as we center ourselves and offer them our prayers before we begin our service. We invite Linda Barr to welcome us and share announcements.
Shabbat Shalom. A lot of announcements tonight. First, thank you to Jeremy Sosin for his music this evening. Thank you to Patty Margolis, who's going to be lighting the Shabbat candles tonight and holding the Kiddush cup in honor of her birthday. Happy birthday, Patty. Thank you to Mike Butlin for blessing the Torah and Moshe Zaruk for lifting the Torah. And thank you to Candy Sartori for sponsoring our Oneg tonight in celebration of her birthday. Happy birthday, Candy. On Sunday, Jewish Akron is looking for volunteers from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. to continue the cleanup at Shabbondi Cemetery. Please report to the cemetery if you can assist in this mitzvah. Jewish Akron continues to solicit funds to provide for humanitarian aid to Israelis. 100% of every contribution will help individuals and families in Israel heal physically, emotionally, and financially. We encourage our Temple Israel community to donate through this fund, so there is only one source of fundraising locally for Israel. We will be offering you some unique incentives soon for your donation, as if you need any. Sunday at 11:45, there will be our annual pet blessing in the Mishkan. I will not be bringing my pets. I bless those dogs every day. So, but I hope you bring yours. Brotherhood will host an usher brunch for current and prospective ushers at Bose this Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Contact head usher Bob Lazaro for details. And our own congregant, Lori Zuckerman, president of Zuckerman Consulting Group, will be honored by Leadership Action with a very prestigious Lebirth Community Vision Award for her legacy of leadership, development, and community involvement. The breakfast will be held on November 2 from 7 to 9 at the John S. Knight Center. And if you would like to share this moment with Lori, see details in our weekly Shabbat as to how you can do that. And to top it off, Lori will be reading Torah next week. Millennials and Gen Xers, and if you have to ask if you're invited and you don't know what a millennial or Gen Xer is, you're not invited, to a sip and social on Thursday, November 9th from 6 to 8 at Regency Wine Bar, RSVP, and you know the drill, it's in the weekly email Shabbat. And this is exciting. On Friday, November 10, Congresswoman Amelia Sykes will be joining us after a short Shabbat service to talk, among other topics, about our recent congressional trip to Israel. More details will follow. Thank you, and Shabbat Shalom.
Please take a moment to turn to those around you to wish them Shabbat Shalom, to welcome everybody as members of our community. Begin Shabbat by inviting Patty Margolis in honor of her birthday to light our Shabbat candles and hold our Kiddush cup. The blessings can be found beginning on page 2.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kedushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kedushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit. Ki hu yom tefila lamikra kodesh, zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim. Ki vanu v'acharta v'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. Amen. Take a moment to walk back through our week, to count the last 7 days, and particularly in these days and weeks that have been so dark, to look for the moments of blessing and light, to remember the moments that were the peaks of our week, to carry those moments into our Shabbat. As we said last week, as a community that mourns with Israel and Israelis and anyone who's losing their life unnecessarily, our hearts break, and yet at the same time we acknowledge that there is a freedom and privilege that comes from being thousands of miles away from a conflict, and it's the freedom to be able to have joy when we want it. And so we make Shabbat a day of joy. We make it a day in which we can have peace, and the hope is that that becomes contagious, and that our friends and family who are suffering in this moment, that they too get to have a taste of the freedom and the joy, the peace and the community that we get to have on this Shabbat. So we begin with our words in song from the Psalms, Shir Ladonai, page 13, in our prayer book as we begin to celebrate Shabbat. Sing unto God a new song. Before we share the words of Lachadodi, reading page 6, we enter this sanctuary to welcome Shabbat. For within these walls we sit surrounded by numberless generations. Our ancestors built the synagogue as a visible sign of God's presence in their midst. Throughout our long history and endless wanderings, it's endured as a beacon of truth, love, and justice for all humanity. Its presence guided our ancestors to lives of righteousness, holding up to them a vision of their truest selves. So now we in our turn come into this sanctuary to affirm the sacredness of our lives. May we enter this place in peace. May holiness wrap around us as we cross its threshold. Weariness, doubt, the flaws within our human hearts, the harshness of the weak, let these drop away at the door. For in the brightness of Shabbat, we let peace settle upon us as we lift our hearts in prayer. Page 20. We welcome Shabbat with the words of Lachadodi.
Lechadodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. 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 Shamur v'zachur b'diburecha, ishmi'anu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad, Shemo echad, Shemo tiferech litchila. Lechadodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lechadodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki mekor havaracha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'mashcha v'tfila. Lechadodi, lechadodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lechadodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri, ki va'orech u'mi'uri, uri, shirtaberi, kavod Adonai alay yichtikla. Lechadodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lechadodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Please rise as you are able in body or spirit and face the entrance to your home or to our beautiful sanctuary. Bo'hi v'shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha u'b'sochola, toch emuni am segula. Bo'hi chala, bo'hi chala. Turn back around. Lechadodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lechadodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela.
Page 26.
Yikada v'yikada shamei rabba, ve'almad yivrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'vyomechon, uv'chayedecho beit Yisrael, ba'agala, uv'izman kariv, v'imeru amen, yehi shmei rabba mevorach, Le'olam me'omaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitroma v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal
Shemei Dekudusha Barichu.
Le'ela min kol brechata v'shirata.
Tushbechata v'nechemata damiron b'yoma v'imeru. Amen. Page 28, the Baruch Hu, our call to worship. Please remain standing.
La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Turn the page to page 30. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chochma poteach sha'arim uvitluna meshana itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umsader et hakochavim, b'mishmeroteim barakia kirtzono. Blessed are you, God, ruler of the universe, who brings us the evening, who opens the gates, who allows us to see light and darkness in day and night, to see the contrast in the stars up above, and who allows us to also differentiate between what is bright in our world and what is dark. Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim, may we be able to bring that which is bright and light and filled with life to the forefront of that which is dark. Amen. Our prayer for the love of people, for Am Yisrael, our people Israel, and all those on earth, page 32.
Ahavat olam b'Yisrael, Amecha ahavta, Amcha ahavta. Torah u'mitzvot, hukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadeta, otanu limadeta. Akein Adonai Eloheinu b'shokbeinu, umeinu nasiach b'chukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, u'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Ahavat olam b'Yisrael, Amecha ahavta, Amcha ahavta, Amcha ahavta.
Shema, pages 34 and 35.
Shema Yisrael,
Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad,
Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam
be seated. Page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Please join me responsively, page 39. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Hashkivenu, page 42.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom. V'hamidenu shomreinu l'chayim. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom. V'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Uvros aleinu sukat shlomecha, uvros aleinu sukat shlomecha.
Prayer invites God's presence to suffuse our spirits, God's will to prevail in our lives. It may not bring water to parched fields or mend a broken bridge or rebuild a ruined city, but it can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, rebuild a weakened will. And so we're here to, in part, do the work that we need to do on ourselves as a community so that we can mend broken bridges, so that we can fix ruined families, so that we can be there to provide what's needed at times in which others cannot. We do that by turning towards the generations of our ancestors, reaching back for the strength of Abraham and Sarah, and by reaching inward, by asking ourselves, what is it that we truly need to be saying in this moment? And so the pages that follow from page 46 all the way up until, I think, page 62, are all part of one long series of prayers, our Amidah, our prayers that ask us to call upon those names that are the oldest names in our tradition, and to call upon our own name as well. So we begin by asking God for the strength to be able to say these words. Page 46, please rise, as we share together the words of our Amidah.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu. Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Velohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Velohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor V'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chastei Avot V'Imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'Nehem, Lama'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Ve'ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechaye HaKol atah Rav Lehoshia, Marik Chiv HaRuach U'Morid HaGashem, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechaye HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Berofech Olim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Micha Mocha Ba'al Gevurot, Umido Melach, Melech Meimit Umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lehachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechaye hakol.
Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh ukdoshim b'chol yom yehalelucha sela baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. Please be seated. Page 57. I'm not sure the origin of the prayer at the top of both pages, actually, but the word that it begins with is actually the same word that ends last week's Torah portion. Ritzei Adonai means that we can find favor, that What God said of Noah at the end of last week's Torah portion is Noah was the one in which God found favor amongst a community that was unhinged. And so we begin this week's Torah portion, as we will tonight, by sharing the story of Noah that many of us know from when we were little. We'll share it in a little different way this evening. But the prayer offers us, in this creative version at the bottom of page 57, the concept of what it might mean to find favor, to be the one in which the responsibility is upon our shoulders to address the world around us, and the struggle that comes with it. You're with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, and our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers, and we pray that there we may find you, along with courage and insight and endurance. Let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha levadecha b'yirah na'avod. We turn to the words of Shalom Rav, our prayer for peace. Page 60 may find its way into every corner of our world.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam Ki Ata Melech Adon Lecho Hashalom Ki Ata Melech Adon Lecho Hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam Letov Einecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael B'chol et tochashah b'shlomecha. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam Tasim Leolam Tasim Leolam.
Please take a few moments for silent reflection.
Shabbat Shalom. So we're in the story of Noah this week, and it is, despite all the books that are out there, it is not really a story about the animals. The story of Noah is a story about one person who's able to survive and lead and build and make it to the next chapter of humanity when other people are unable to do it. It's about leadership, and it's about hard work, and it's also about self-sacrifice. It's, I don't know if we'd say unfortunate or a strange coincidence that there's a Hebrew word that comes up twice only in this week's Torah portion that we'll be sharing in the section we're reading tonight, the Hebrew word Hamas. It means lawlessness. It reads, "The earth became corrupt before God. The earth was filled with Hamas, lawlessness. Noach ish tzaddik. Noah was a righteous man." So Noah is a story about how the righteous leader can stand up in the face of what they say in the Midrash was everybody talking terribly, that evil was on their lips all the time, that Noah was the one who was able to speak truth, that he was the one who, when he opened his mouth, nothing sinful came out. It was only what needed to be said. Noah actually doesn't say anything in the whole portion until the very end, but the Midrash likes to give him words. Of course, with the words that are placed right before us and the image of what the world looked like at that time, the idea that God creates this flood to wash out all of this evil in the world, and the world we've been looking at, as some have called, taken on the phrase doom scrolling, as we scroll through our phones and the internet and the TV, and all we see is stuff that's disturbing, to say the least. There's a lot from this Torah portion that seems like it's about today. And in a world where it feels like anyone can speak whatever they want at any time and can be their own expert and publish whatever they want to say, it also feels like the sins of the mouth are common. And we would say also some of those sins are portrayed when there are no words said. For we have felt the pain of what people have said in the face of a terror attack, and we have felt the pain of what people have not said in the face of a terror attack. And so perhaps this week especially we're looking for who is Noah. We're looking for the ones who will stand up, the heroes who will say the right thing at the right time so that we know what direction we're supposed to go. Perhaps in a much lighter way, it reminds me a little bit of the image that I've learned from my son's baseball coach this season. As I'm sure some of you have experienced, when you're in Little League Baseball, especially the beginning of Little League Baseball, the kids don't always know what to do or even what the rules are. And the parents on both sidelines love to tell the kids when they get something wrong or what they're supposed to do next. So the common situation is a kid is running the bases, having hit the ball, thank God, to the outfield, which only happens once in a blue moon, and they miss a base. So all the parents on that sideline start yelling, "Go back, go back." The kid knows nothing of what's happening, doesn't know what they did wrong. Meanwhile, the outfielder has picked up the ball and has no idea where to throw the ball, so just holds the ball. So the other sideline starts yelling to the kid, "Throw to whatever base that parent thinks they should throw to." So our coach, who's brilliant in his own way, he should be a rabbi, he said to us one day, he said, "You know, all this screaming at the kids, it just drives them nuts. And to be honest, I'd say half the time, they just end up in tears. The kid didn't know where to throw the ball. The kid didn't know he didn't touch the base. Can't understand a word anybody's saying. The coach is saying, just shut up." Because they can't listen to all of you. All they hear is a bunch of screaming heads and they don't know where to go or what to do, and they're just trying to learn. And so we took our medicine and we realized that perhaps screaming at the kid to do whatever we wanted the kid to do wasn't the right thing to do. In a much more serious way today, there are a lot of ways that we want to speak up and a lot of things we want to say, and perhaps the sentiment I've heard most is, what can we do? I want to do something in response to what we're seeing in these tragedies happening to our friends and family in Israel. And we want to do something to reach out to, especially in our community. We've built a good relationship with the mosque and our Muslim friends, and we know that they're suffering in a way that perhaps we don't see on our feed. We want to reach out to them as well. We don't know what to do. And yet there's all this yelling happening. This summer I was handed a book about leadership. It's called The Wounded Leader. It was written about educators, particularly after the pandemic. But the premise was that leaders today have to expect to be wounded, meaning that if you speak up, you're going to get wounded, and if you don't speak up, you're also going to get wounded. That's part of leadership, that you have to understand that you'll be hurt in the process, and that's part of your job. The challenge is to be authentic, to be vulnerable, to be willing to be wounded, and to assert your influence for the greater good with the organization that you have influence over. In some ways, we might shorten that to say, the goal is to say the right thing at the right time to the right people. Certainly not to be silent. So in our Torah portion, Noah's that person. He works hard, he builds an ark like he's told to. He's told that the earth is corrupt around him. He gathers people together, his family. He finds a way so that they can survive. And in fact, as one colleague shared this week, one of the amazing things about the Noah story is he doesn't only save himself. He actually saves animals that have nothing to do with him. He seems to have a broader goal than his own family. And at the end of the story, Noah is broken. The story reads, this is the one time he speaks. As soon as they get on dry land, he plants a vineyard, he gets drunk, he yells at his children. It wasn't an easy journey. As I think about this story and this week, I think about the people who are like Noah, have been like Noah in these last 7 days. I think particularly of the CEOs and directors of Jewish institutions, not clergy. We have our role, but to be honest, our role hasn't been to lead this week. It's been perhaps more to comfort. The people who've been leading are the ones who are Hillel directors at every single campus across the country. Every single one I know worked harder than I imagine they've worked in their life. They organized rallies, and they also figured out how to organize against or keep people from organizing against other rallies that were against Israel at the same time. At the same time, they were putting out, directors of the ADL and the American Jewish Committee were putting out mass amounts of information. I would get emails sometimes at midnight or 1 a.m. from people who'd been working all day long trying to get us the latest news, the latest updates, trying to fight against headlines that are in the New York Times about hospitals being bombed and who bombed them. Somebody in some office in Cleveland and St. Louis and New York is doing research to figure out who bombed a hospital in the Middle East so that we can have information as soon as we can. So too, another group that's stood up, said the right things, sometimes at the right time with the right people, are certain presidents of universities. We heard a lot about the presidents of universities who put out bad statements. There were presidents who put out good statements too. Presidents have been applauded at the University of Miami, not my alma mater, the University of Miami in Miami, the University of Maryland, and at Johns Hopkins. They wrote letters that were honest, that were sincere, that were authentic to who they were, that were to their community, that reminded their community that they're a place of learning and acceptance, but that also called out Hamas for a terrible terrorist attack, and that also said that Palestinians, civilians, shouldn't be harmed and that we have to take care of all of those who are a part of our community, and that also offered support. to say that we have mental health support on our campuses, to say that there are proper ways to go about grieving and to go about dealing with our anger and to go about promoting the issues that we care about most. At a time when the leaders of our greatest educational institutions are very well versed in how to be wounded and how to avoid being wounded, they spoke up and they said the right thing at the right time, and they kept their universities and their communities together, and they spoke against terrorism at the same time. But finally, as I read this morning, I don't know how many other people read this article. There was an article in Haaretz by Amir Tibon, who I was so proud to share his story last week. I thought I was the only one. It turns out the whole world knows Amir's story. It was a very moving story, and I shared last week his personal story of how he was trapped in his safe room on his kibbutz, and his father came to save him. Because of that story, because he was a survivor of that terrible attack, he was one of 10 people invited to meet with President Biden when President Biden came to Israel. And because he's a journalist, he was not invited to the meeting because he was a journalist, but because he's a journalist, he quickly wrote an article. He titled the article, "I Met the Most Important Zionist Leader in the World This Week, President Biden." He wrote the following. He said, "For half an hour, he stood with the group of us who were supposed to get nothing more than a quick handshake and a few polite words. Instead, he spoke with us about his personal experience of bereavement and loss. As someone who's lost his first wife and 2 of his children over the years, he talked about how love survives even after death and how the memory remains years after the tragedy. He shared with us the challenge of not giving in to despair or turning sadness into anger. There were moments when he wiped a tear from his eye. The Israelis who stood around him, all whom had just emerged from a personal, communal, and national disaster zone, were captivated. It was impossible to take your eyes off him. Each member of the group received from the president a penetrating personal look, an expression of pain and identification, and above all, an ear. He stood there, shared with us his personal life experience, and listened very intently to ours. It was an incomprehensible situation. The President of the United States standing in front of a group of Israeli citizens and helping them process the horrible experience they'd just had, giving it historical context and thinking together how to overcome it. Before parting, he reiterated his statements of the past few days, of his administration's commitment to aid Israel during one of the most challenging times in its history. But this time it wasn't a policy declaration, but nearly an emotional statement. It was as if everything we'd heard up until that point was the background to explain why he's doing this, why he chose to send us aircraft carriers with another one on the way, why he decided in the middle of this war that's closing in on us from the south and maybe also from the north to come here and meet with us. Biden came to Israel to give us both diplomatic and military backing, but in this meeting, the feeling was that he came to give us something more important, simply a hug. Currently, the world's most important Zionist leader is the United States president. To be a leader who's willing to be wounded because you take a stance, to stand up for what's right, to lead and tell people that there's a direction we must go. This is what it means to act like Noah, to make a personal sacrifice, to realize that this is what our world asks of us in this time. In the story of Noah, the 2 symbols that we have at the end of the story are the rainbow and the dove. They're both symbols of peace, but also of what happens to us when we go through dark skies and dark times and flooded world and believe that at some point something beautiful is going to emerge. So with our world still flooded with evil, with hostages held, with children burying their parents and siblings at the same time, with more funerals than we have people to perhaps sit at the Shiva Minions, Jewish and Muslim, Israeli and Palestinian mothers are screaming and crying, and so we have to look for leaders who will remind us that just because our pain is equal, it doesn't mean that the blame is equal. Hamas continues to hold hostages, continues to launch rockets, continues to aim at civilians, and continues to want war. The leaders who stand up and say that in our world today, we should make a choice, that we can love and have compassion for all sorts of victims, but still find a way to get through the flood and take a direction, they're likely to get wounded, and they know it. So for those who did this week, we offer our thanks, and we look for you in the weeks to come. Shabbat Shalom. We'll turn now to our Torah service. As we read those words, the beginning of the book of the story of Noah, as we'll invite Moshe Zaruk to open our ark and to carry our Torah. Moshe was supposed to carry our Torah at Yom Kippur, so this is what's known as a rain check on the portion of rain. And he'll carry our Torah as he'll walk around the sanctuary. We invite you to rise as we take our Torah from the ark.
Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, ki mitzion tetzei Torah, udavar Adonai mirushalayim, Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah, Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah, Le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo, Gadalu Adonai iti, Unaramema Shemo Yaktav. Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Haolam Omid. Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Haolam Omid. Al HaTorah ve'al Havodah ve'al Gemilut Chasadim. Al HaTorah ve'al Havodah ve'al Gemilut Chasadim. Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Haolam Omid. Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Haolam Omid. Al HaTorah ve'al Havodah ve'al Gemilut Chasadim. Al HaShonah ve'al Havodah ve'al Gemilut Chasadim. Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Haolam Omid. Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Haolam Omid.
Please be seated. Respond as Mike Butlin has the blessing over our Torah this evening.
Baruch Hu Adonai ad hambarach.
Baruch Adonai Ambarach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hambarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato, Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Ele toldot Noach ish tzadik, tamim chaya bedorotav, et hala Elohim hitalech Noach, vayoled Noach shlosha banim, et Sham et Cham et Yafed, v'tishachet haaretz lifnei haElohim, v'timale haaretz chamas, vayar Elohim et haaretz v'hinei nishmata, ki hishchit kol basar et darko al haaretz, vayomer Elohim lanoach kates, kol basar ba lefanai, ki maleh haaretz chamas mipnehem, v'hini mishchaitam et haaretz, aseh lecha tevat atzei gofer, ki nim ta'aseh et hateva, b'chafarta ota, mi bayit u'michutz b'chafar.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayein olam natav etoheinu, Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen.
This is the line of Noah. Noah was a righteous man. He was blameless in his age. Noah walked with God. He begot 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The earth became corrupt before God and was filled with lawlessness. When God saw how corrupt the earth was, for all flesh had corrupted its ways on earth, God said to Noah, I've decided to put an end to all flesh, for the earth is filled with lawlessness because of them. I'm about to destroy them with the earth, so make yourself an ark of gopher wood. Make it an ark with compartments and cover it inside and out with pitch. This is how you'll make it. The length shall be 300 cubits, its width 50 cubits, its height 30 cubits. Make an opening for daylight in the ark and terminate it with a cubit on top. Put the entrance to the ark in its side. Make it with bottom, second, and third decks. With our Torah out and our story before us, we share some of the strength of the generations of our people who've been a part of this story and hope that that strength reaches those who are in need of healing as we share the words of Misha Berach.
Bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen.
If there are names you'd like to share, please share them as I look around the room.
Please rise as we return the Torah to the Ark.
V'zot haTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe. Yada la la la, yada la la la, yada la 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 la. Ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Page 256. Et chaim hi lemachazikim ba v'tomecheha meushar deracheha darchei noam v'chol netivoteha shalom. Hashimenu Adonai Eilecha v'nashuva Chadesh Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem. Page 282 for Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol l'tekedu l'liotzer v'reishit shelo asanu k'goyei haratzot v'lo samanu k'mishpechot ha'adama shelo sam chelkeinu kahem v'goranleinu k'chahamonam v'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu v'nemar V'haya Adonai L'melech al kol haaretz Bayom hahu Yiyeh Adonai echad U'shemo echad.
Please be seated. Yizkor, we remember. We remember our people who suffered and died so that we could be free and secure. May their memory be more than a distant shadow. For their dreams left unfulfilled and lives taken too soon, we remember. We remember our brothers and sisters whose sacrifice kept the dream of democracy and justice alive. May their courage be our inspiration and strength. For life cut short and vision unrealized, we remember. Remember the fallen of our armed services, the victims of terror and tragedy. May the darkness of their loss not obscure the light of peace. They were in love with our land and in love with life. For the agony, the tears, the mothers and the fathers, for the children who were and for the children yet to be, we remember. This week, in addition to all of those lives lost in Israel, we remember those that we know personally. We remember Leah Blyman and Joe Chapman, lost to our community in this last month. We remember those lost at this time in years past: Lillian Baden, Leona Tobias Bernstein, Sheldon Butlin, David Cooper, William Faring, Francis Paula George, Martin Greenblatt, Daniel Heyman, Dina Katzenberg, Ben Kay, Alice Layden, Michael Lemmerman, Reuben Levine, Morton Mandel, Raymond Miller, Herman Moss, Lillian Myers, Sidney Olson, Dr. Samuel Rubin, Louis Schiller, Saul Sesnowitz, Louis Shapiro, Joseph Solomon, Miriam Stein, Robert Weinberg, Milton Weiner, Dina Widman, Myrtle Williger, Gilbert Weiner, and Irving Zimmerman. If there are names I mispronounced or names you'd like to add, please share them. Page 294, please rise. We remember our loved ones as we share the words of Mourner's Kaddish. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah Be'alma Divrach Hirutei V'yamlich Malchutei B'chayechon Uv'yomechon Uv'chaye Dechol Beit Yisrael Bagala Uv'izman Kariv V'imru Amen Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mivarach Le'olam Almei Almaya Yit Barak V'ish Tabach V'yit Pa'ar V'yit Romam V'yit Naseh V'yit Hadar V'yit Aleh V'yit Halal Shmei Dekudesha Barichu Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechamata, dam iran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Having connected with those that we've loved and lost, we invite you to connect with each other if you would like, as we bless each other with the words of the priests. May God bless you and keep you. May God's light shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May you feel God's presence within you always, and may you find peace.